Hello everyone, myself Manju Sharma from Suresh Kanwiyar University, Jagatpura, Jaipur. The department is School of Agriculture. Today we are going to discuss about nematodes, and nematodes are the pathogen which cause the different types of disease in plants. Nematodes, basically the nematodes are hermaphrodite and dioecious, fluke, flat and leaf-shaped worm, then tapeworm, long, ribbon-like segment, and nematode, elongate, cylindrical, tapered at both ends. Nematode belong to phylum Nematohalvanthes and the class is Nematoda. Morphology of the nematodes are like adult structure. Here we are taking two examples like pinworm and roundworm. Adult elongate, cylindrical, bilaterally symmetrical and tapered at both ends, dioecious male and female. At the end of male is a copulatory organ or the posterior will be curved. Their pseudocoelom, there is no peritoneal lining containing transport of solution, electrolytes, protein fats, and their functions like these will be protecting the internal organs, helping the movement and excretion of the worms. Their body wall, basically there are three layers: cuticle, hypodermis, muscle, and the cuticle, then the outermost layer is the cuticle, then the inner layer will be hypodermis, and then most inner layer is the muscles. So that is the cross section of nematode. The arrangement of the somatic muscles is of value in the systemic grouping of nematodes, like that is polymerine, meromyrine, and holomyrine. So basically, the roundworm, which is polymyrine, then meromyrine is hookworm, and holomyrine is the whipworm. Their digestive system, basically their digestive system which is basically consider like mouth, esophagus, intestine, rectum, cloaca and anus. Their reproductive system, basically these will be separate. Female reproductive system is different and the male reproductive organs will be different. So there is in female like pseudocoelom is there, then ovary and oviduct are found. In male, there is the vas deferens and seminal vesicle, excretory system, and their nervous system. So basically, the life cycle of nematode, in which there are three types of stages in their life. So these will be include like egg, larva, and then adults. So under favorable condition, the larva undergo four molds. Molds, that means there will be removal of the outer covering. There are two types of nematodes like soil transmitted nematode. For example, like nematodes Ascaris, pinworm, whipworm, or hookworm, and the biosource nematode is the filaria. So the nematodes are intermediate hosts. Infection is transmitted by like insect bite, which transmit by filaria. Then the ingestion of encysted larva, that is Trachinella spiralis. Then the symmetrology of nematodes. The effect depends on the species, worm, burden, development stage, parasitic site, physiological condition, and immunological response of host species vary in their ability to produce mechanical or toxic damage and in their selective affinity for viral organ. Like basically, these are the different types of nematode which cause the different types of symptoms. Their epidemiology. Epidemiology, basically these are the widespread, common in warm climate, close relation with social, economic status. Then the classification of nematode, basically common human parasitic nematodes like Ascaris lumbricus, Trichuris tricularia, Anterolus vermicularis, hookworm, Trachinella spirala, and filaria. Then here, one worm means many worms are there. If you don't practice good health rules, you will swallow worm eggs and a family of worms will come live with you. Roundworm, that is Ascaris lumbricoides. Their introduction, it is the largest, it is the most common nematode and the worm found in human. Adult worm parasitize in the intestinal tract of human and that is cause ascariasis. The morphology, adult, their shape is the cylindrical fusiform body similar to earthworm. Color is the pink and white that the length of the female is 20 to 30 centimeter and the male length is 15 to 31 centimeter. So basically, the spatial structure in which the typical curled tail with appear sickle-like copulatory spine, So these are the adult worm of Ascaris lumbricoides. So there is the lips of Ascaris lumbricoides. So they have three types of lip or three lips are there. Copulatory spines of male. There is the egg, like basically the eggs, unfertilized eggs, and the fertilized decorticated. We usually describe an egg in five aspects like their size, color, shape, egg cell, and content. Fertilized egg, like the shell will be thick and protein membrane outside of the cell that contained one embryo cell. So these are the fertilized Ascaris egg. So it will be then the fertilized egg and the ova begin fission. So these are the freshly passed Ascaris eggs from their fishes. The eggs may appear from light to dark brown in color. That is, the embryonated eggs of Ascaris. Egg contains a larva which will be infective if ingested. So here, like the fertilized egg, then after 2 weeks it will be called and converted into embryonated egg, and then after 1 week of embryonated egg, it will be infective egg, or it will be looks like that unfertilized egg. So, the unfertilized egg, there is the measure 88 to 94 into 39 to 44 μm shape is the longer and cylinder than fertilized egg. Color is the brown and the shell is the thin protein membrane without ascarocyte and the contained a mass of refractile granules. So that is the unfertilized egg. Unfertilized egg and fertilized egg. This one, which is large in the size, that is unfertilized egg, and after fertilization, it will be looks like that. Then decorticated egg, both fertilized and unfertilized eggs sometimes may lack their outer protein coats and are colorless. Life cycle, like human to human, how the nematode which will be grow. So there is the adult worm, egg, then larva. It will be 4 times molt, and then again it will be converted into adult worm. Development of ova, temperature, moisture, and oxygen. Fertilized egg 25 to 30 degrees centigrade. It will be take 2 to 4 weeks, and after that it will be converted into infected egg. Then enclose the larva has undergone its first molt, then it will be infective age or ineffective eggs, then survivable in the soil for 2 years or longer. Their life cycle, where they penetrate the capillaries into the alveoli, in which they molt twice and stay for 4 to 10 days. Adult worm live in the human of So adult worm which live in the lumen of small intestine, then feeding on the intestinal contents, whereas the larva pass down into the small intestine, where they develop into adults, and after the ingestion of infective eggs in contaminated food or from contaminated fingers. So there is the migration of larva and how the larva which is migrate into the human body. So there are like firstly adult worm in the intestine and duodenum. Then it will be go into intestinal wall, then liver, then heart, then hugs. After alveoli, it will be passed into bronchi, then trachea to esophagus, and esophagus to it will be like just convert into flies. So here, like lumbricoides nematode, so here two eggs are there, like unfertilized or fertilized egg. Then after fertilization, basically there will be many changes, and then it will be just enter into the human being. Summary, like site of inhabitation, all intestine, infective stage in fungi, infective X, then route of infection by mouth, no intermediate and reservoir host, lifespan of the adult above 1 year. So lifespan of the adult is it only about 1 year, and then female can produce up to 20,000 per day. Then third thing is the pathogenesis and symmetrology. So there is the reaction of the invading larva, then the irritation of the intestine. So the irritation of the intestine by the mechanical and toxic action of adult, then the complication arising from its extra-intestinal margins. Now the pathogenesis and symptoms, like migrating larva. So firstly, the pathological reaction to the invading larva, which depends on, and the second thing is the number of invading larva, and then the histological nature of the organ involved, that is liver or lungs. Now the pathogenesis in human consists of, like, esophilus. The pathogenesis is human consists of, like, granuloma formation around in the path of migrating leaves, inflammation along the portal, so there is the number of invading larva, and the histological nature of the organ is involved. Now the pathogenesis in human consists of, like in esophagus. Now the pathogenesis and symptom, like the pathologic process in the lung is known as Ascaris pneumonitis. So the symptoms of Ascaris pneumonitis, then that is the larva of Ascaris lumbricoides in lungs. Now, allergy, basically exposure to Ascaris allergen may cause hypersensitivity reaction in lungs, skin, and intestinal mucosa. So there is the exposure to Ascaris allergen may cause hypersensitivity reaction in lungs, then skin and intestinal mucosa. So the skin change like each urticaria and angioneurotract edema. Then complications when disturbed by fever, usually a temperature. So uh, the worms migrate overboard the both direction. So the worm congregate in a closely mass that mate into. So the worms congregate in a closely mass that may tend to obstruct the bowel sac mechanism plant. So the migrating worm have a productivity, a possibility for probing and future partner. So there is the most common. They simple expel or cravel from the mouth. They enter the nasal meats via the nasopharynx and exit through a nares. So they may penetrate to the middle ear and through the tympanic membrane to the external duct. So they entered and broke the biliary or pancreatic duct, resulting acute biliary or acute pancreatitis. They may lodge in the appendix and cause the obstructive appendix. They may reach other side such kidney via fistula formed after intestinal perforation. These are the symptoms and their structure. The most common complication like symptoms are biliary ascariasis, right upper abdominal pain, a sudden onset, a very strong intensity nausea, vomiting, mechanical ileus, the usual site of obstruct ileocecal region. The symptoms are like start suddenly with vomiting and cloacae recurring abdominal pain. Then fourth is the laboratory diagnosis. So the finding the egg in the feces. First is the direct fecal film, and another one is the recovery of adult worm. So that is therapeutic test and clinical manifestation. Direct fecal film, it is simple and effective. The eggs are easily found due to a large number of the female oviposition. So this method is the first choice. Then recovery of adult worm. There is the therapeutic test and clinical manifestation. Fifth thing is the epidemiology, worldwide distribution, very common in China, especially in the countryside. Factors favoring the spread of the transmission, like simple life cycle, enormous life cycle, and the enormous egg production. Third thing, eggs are highly resistant to ordinary disinfectants. Social customs and living habits, disposal of fishes is unsuitable. Like there is the distribution of Ascaris suitable. There is the Ascaris is most prevalent in the area with warm climate, moist and poor sanitation. Then sixth point is the prevention treatment, like treatment of infected patient, like mebendazole, albendazole and levamisole are effective. Sanitary disposal of fishes, then the hygienic habits such as cleaning of hands before meals, then the health education. Like the morphology of the nematodes, like adult will be, their shape may be cylindrical, fusiform, body similar to, color is the pink, alive and white dead. Length, female will be 20 to 30 centimeter long and the male is the 15 to 31 centimeter. These are the copulatory spine of males. Egg, there are three kinds of the egg: fertilized, unfertilized, and So there is the migrating of larva. Like firstly, it will be in duodenum, then in intestinal wall, then in liver, heart, lungs, and alveoli. Then it will be moved in bronchi, trachea, esophagus, or intestine. So there is the site of inhabitation, all intestine, infective stage in infective eggs, then the route of infection by mouth. Then no intermediate and reservoir host. Then lifespan of the adult about 1 year. Then the female can produce up to 2 lakh eggs per day. Then their pathogenesis and symmetrology, the reaction of the invading larva, then the irritation of the intestine by the mechanical and toxic action of adult, then the complications arising from its extraintestinal migrations. Then their pathogenesis and their symptoms. First is the migrating larva, the pathological reaction to the invading larva, which depends upon the number of invading larvae and the histological nature of the organ involved. These are the liver and lungs. The pathogenesis in human consists of eosinophilic infiltration like granuloma formation around and in the path of migrating larva, the inflammation along the portal tract with of infiltration of eosinophils in the acute phase and later fibrosis of the periportal and interlobular space occurs. Their pathogenesis and symptoms. The pathologic process in the lung is known as Ascaris pneumonitis. The symptoms of Ascaris pneumonitis is that is dyspnea, that is bronchial asthma, a dry or productive cough, and the moderate fever that is transient eosinophils. So this is all about This is all about the nematodes. Thank you.